Remind us of what we're holding. Okay, good morning. We're on Masechet Pesahim. We're on Amoud Yomi. We're on Samech Bet Amoud Aleph at the top of the page. The last word in line is Amarle Marzutre. That's what we're holding. I don't know if we read this yesterday, but we have to go back on it one more time. Let me just catch you up a little bit for whoever's new in the shir. And Baruch haba for Roy and Baruch haba for Ilan. Baruch haba. Beruchim habayim. We're talking about Korban Pesach. Yes? Korban Pesach has a few halachot. Let's discuss them to remind ourselves. Everybody's with me? Mordechai, you with me? Roy, you with me? You listening? Samech Bet Amoud Aleph. Johnny? Okay, Korban, you good? Korban Pesach. Number one rule is you got to shecht it for people that are appointed for the Korban. You got to be signed up. Number two, you got to shecht it for people that have circumcision. If you don't have circumcision, you can't eat it. Number three, you got to shecht it for people that are tahor, that are not that they cannot be tameh. If they're tameh, it doesn't work. And you got to shecht it for people that are able to eat it. If they can't eat it, it doesn't work. Okay? Our Mishnah said something very interesting. If I'm shechting it for people that are have no circumcision, so 5 have circumcision, 5 don't have circumcision, it's kosher. If I shecht it for people that have 5 are tameh and 5 are tahor, it's kosher. Because I have to shecht it for people. I have to shecht anyways for the kosher guys. It doesn't make a difference if I shecht it for guys that are not kosher. So it makes absolutely no difference. That's what the Gemara says. Then.
Ceux qui sont pas cachés, ils peuvent manger.
Non, ils peuvent pas manger. Mais ça change pas que le korban il est caché.
Okay.
That means you guys can't eat it, but my korban is kosher. That's what the Gemara says. Then we said later, then we go to a Braita. And the Braita said, and I want to repeat you what the Braita said. The Braita said, okay, the Braita doesn't seem to know the answer of our Mishnah. Okay? It's already in figuring out what our Mishnah said. And then our Mishnah said like this. We have keep in mind, you have to gotta keep this in mind. So we have the concept of Orla. If I shecht for people that are completely have no consideration, it's not kosher. 50-50, the Braita doesn't know the answer. We want to figure it out. So we could either learn from one of two things. We could either learn from Tumah v'Tara, or we could either learn from Zman. And I'll explain. Tumah v'Tara, 50-50 is kosher. 50-50 pure, 50 pure, 50 not pure, it's kosher. We don't know what that is yet. We're going to discuss in a second. When it comes to Zman, 50-50 is not kosher. This is called Doresha. So we could either go left, or we could either go right. Zman means that I'm shechting it. I'm going to eat part of the korban today, part of the korban tomorrow. It's not kosher. You can only eat korban Pesach on the 14th. You can shecht it to eat it only on the 15th of Nisan. If you're thinking of eating it on the 16th of Nisan, I'm going to take it as a doggy bag to go home. I'm going to take a little snack on my way back. It's not good. I need some leftovers. It's not kosher. If you have in mind that when you're shechting it, you made pasul the korban. So 50-50 in the Zman is not kosher. 50-50 in the Tumah v'Tara is kosher. So then, how do we learn for the?
You give an example of the Tumah v'Tara 50.
The Gemara, I'm assuming now that it's talking about 5 people pure, 5 people not pure. But the Gemara is going to ask a question on that in a second. So 5 people pure, 5 people not pure, it's kosher. We're assuming that's what that means. So then Ogla, do we go this way or this way? Some people have circumcision, some don't have circumcision. Is it kosher or not? Well, if we go right, it's not kosher. If we go left, it is kosher. So the Gemara says, you know what? Let me give you a svara. I'll try to prove to you that it makes more sense to go like Tumah v'Tara, or it makes more sense to go like Zman. What's the svara to say that it goes more like Tumah v'Tara? Because these Tumah v'Tara and Orla are things that only exist by Korban Pesach. These are things that only exist by them. There's no prohibition, for example, of being a guy that's tameh, or being a guy that has no circumcision, and sending your korban to the Beit HaMikdash without going in. I'm not going in. I'm outside. I'm going to send God to bring it. I did my mitzvah. I have to bring a chatat. You'll bring it for me. The guy can't get in. You don't have to eat it. Korban Pesach is different. Korban Pesach, if you're an Arel, or if you're tameh, you can't bring it. And the reason why you can't bring it is you have to eat it, and you can't eat it if you're Arel, if you're tameh. So it makes sense to learn out from Tumah v'Tara. So we're going to go left, and it's going to be kosher. Or does it make sense to learn from Zman? You know why? Because Zman has no leniencies. There's no leniency in Zman. We never change the rules for Zman. And we never change the rule for an Orla. When a guy's a Korban Pesach, we never say, if you, for some reason, you couldn't do circumcision, we allow you. And we never allow a leniency for Zman. So they're similar in that aspect, that there's no leniency. But when it comes to Tumah, there is a leniency. And the leniency is, I'll tell you right away, if the whole Tzibur is Tameh, you're allowed to bring Korban Pesach. That's why people are, that's a really interesting halacha. But a korban tzibur, an individual korban cannot be brought if you're in a state of impurity. But if a community in entirety, like today, if there was no government and Arabs and all that, we would actually allowed to bring Korban Pesach. Because we're all in a state of impurity, so it pushes off the prohibition. So since there's an exception over here, we can't learn from here. So it's more similar to Zman. That's what the Gemara said. Okay? So we have either can learn from Tuma or Zman, and there's a reason to think that should learn from Tuma, and there's a reason to think we use Zman. Now we're going to analyze all those to get to clarity of what it means the Tuma and what it means the Zman. Because I told you things, but the Gemara is going to question it. So let's go to there. Amar le marzutre. So last word in line is Amar le, about maybe 15 lines from the top. It's a little bit more than halfway through. Amar le marzutre berede Rav Mari le Ravina. So marzutre tad te Ravina. Katane hu'in. Though our first thing, the Resha, ve'orla posedet, ve'tuma posedet. The same way that orla is not kosher and tuma is not kosher. Ma tuma lo asaba miksat tuma kekol tuma. The same way tuma 50-50 is okay. It's not miksat is like 100%, 50 is not like 100% and it's good. Af orla, maybe we'll say orla lo asaba miksat orla kekol orla. So orla 50-50 will also be okay. So that's that's the ratio that I told you. We're trying to learn orla from tuma because 50-50 here is good, 50-50 here is good. What's that 50-50? Hi tuma echidami. What does it mean 50-50? What Ilan asked me on the tuma is kosher or not. If you want to be, it's like what I told you, 50-50 in people. 5 guys pure, 5 guys not pure. If that's what it means. Umay lo asaba miksat tuma kekol tuma. And what does it mean that we didn't do 50, like 50% to 100%? The ika arba v'chamisha gavre. If there are 4 or 5 people that are tameh, tmein, that they're ve'arba v'chamisha gavre the teorin, 4 or 5 people that are tahor, lo pasnu. Then you can bring the korban. It's no problem. The korban pesach is still good. So if I'm shechting for that group 50-50, it's kosher. No paslu tmein the teorin. The tameh ones are not going to pasel the tar ones. Gabe orla, so we'll learn the same thing when it comes to the circumcision as well. Nami halo pasle, it will not be pasul. Ditnan mulin v'arilin, because our Mishnah says if you have people that are circumcised, but they're not circumcised, kasher. Ma'ishna tuma b'pshitale, ma'ishna orla b'masakle. Why would you have more in mind that tuma makes sense and orla doesn't make sense? And I'll explain. Our Mishnah clearly says, I'm now coming to Korban Pesach, I'm the shoichet, I'm having in mind. Here's a group, 50-50, 5 people have orla, 5 people have an orla. They have a bris, 5 people don't have a bris. If I shecht it, it's kosher, the Mishnah says. 5 people are tameh, 5 people are tar, I shecht it, it's Mishnah, kosher, the Mishnah says. Our Braita doesn't say that. Our Braita is said, we don't know the halach of orla. So let's go to Tuma. Tuma, if you mean that Tuma means 50-50 in people, so then how do you know that? How do you know that and not in this? It means you don't know the Mishnah, so you don't know that 50-50 in people are kosher. So it can't be that when we want to learn in the Braita Orla from Tuma, it's talking about 50-50 of people, because if you don't know the Orla, you don't know the Tuma. I mean, if you don't know the Mishnah, you don't know the rules at all. So it can't be you're learning from rule. If you know one rule, you know both rules. So the Gemara is saying when we want to learn from Orla, we're learning from something else of Tuma. We want to learn only from Tuma. What are you learning? Ela umay lo asama miksat Tuma kikol Tuma diiru itmechad. So what's umashna Orla the Mesam Ela betumad basar. So really, what we do know is a different halakha when it comes to Tumah B'Tara for a korban. The halakha of a korban is if I shecht up my korban, okay? I bought my korban Pesach, I shecht it up, I cut it up. Here's a leg for you, here's a thigh for you, here's a breast for you. So what's the halakha? If your thigh became tameh and your leg became is tar, well, you burn yours and yours is kosher. So you see that yours does not affect his. So if you're now sitting at a table, I give each guy a piece. This guy has a rat that touched on his piece of meat. You burn yours, you don't burn yours. So 50-50 on the piece of meat is kosher. So 50-50 is kosher. So 50-50 on circumcised people is kosher. Because there's a 50-50 over here, there's a 50 over here. That's why we're thinking of learning. Umay lo asa miksa tuma kekol tuma. Diru itme chad nevarim. So if one of the limbs became tameh, haidit me samfiname. That when you burn it, vidach achninan, and you eat, David will eat his, and Johnny will not eat his.
So you don't necessarily need 50-50. It can be
90, yeah. I said 50-50, but it's...
But the Gemara took another turn now.
Another turn,
We're not
yes.
talking about people anymore.
Exactly, because we can't go through people.
They're talking about food.
Yeah, because if you know the rule of people for Tumas, you know the rule of people of Orla. Because that's written in the Mishnah. If you know the Mishnah, what are you asking me a question? The Braitas doesn't know the answer. So it must be when the Braita wants to learn from Tuma, It's learning from a different concept of Tumah, like David's saying. That the meat, half meat is kosher, and you're right, Mordechai. It's not 50-50. I'm saying 50-50 to make it clear to you. But it's even 10% and even 1% and,
Yeah, any limb.
Any percentage.
But
So long as there's something
how
kosher.
can an animal have one limb to tum'ah and
Because we cut it up, we split it. So I did the korban pesach. I take off I roast it. I take off the skin. I'm cutting it up. I'm roasting
It's the person that makes it.
so you have your plate. He has his plate. He's eating and you're eating. Him, he had it. It became tummy, and you didn't become tummy.
But it became tummy when?
While you're eating.
After.
While you're eating.
But not before, because before you can't share.
Yeah, exactly. If it's all touched and you touch the food, for sure the whole thing become tummy. We're talking after having cutting up the animal.
After, and how does it become tummy?
Well, we learned in the second paragraph. There's a lot of ways it can become tummy.
Right.
A dead rat falls in it, a dead thing, or becomes a zav. He's eating it, becomes a zav. Or the lady becomes nida while she's eating it.
We already
You know?
we already did this where we said it was from Tuma, no?
We did it yesterday. We gave an answer, but now we're going back to analyze how the Braita thought. We have the answer on this. The answer is we learn from Tuma. But what is the hamamin of the Braita? What does the Braita even have? How could you? What are you thinking? You know, what did you have in mind when you tell me those things? So now if we have the Reisha, I know it's a little complicated, but we're gonna get over this hump. The Reisha, the first one, the Braita is talking about 50-50 of all of people from 50-50 of meat, of the korban, meat, edible. It became his leg became tummy, his leg became his tar.
It's a bigger stretch to
It's a big stretch. Yes, it's a big stretch. And the Gemara is going to say even bigger stretch. V'idach achninan. One second. Betumat basar, what God is asking. God, I'm going to take your question even further. Okay, you're talking about the Reisha. What I want to know, Orla, is it like Zman or is it like Tuma Vitara? Oh, it's like Tuma Vitara of the meat, not of the people. You want to tell me that? Ema Seifa. Danin devar she'eno noheg b'kol hazevachim. Midvar she'eno noheg b'kol hazevachim. You learn from something that only exists by Korban Pesach and not all the other Zevachim the Korbanot. Ve'an yochiach Zman. Don't learn from Zman shenoheg b'kol hazevachim. Zman exists. The problem of time exists in all the Korbanot. Umay tuma. Ine matumat basar. If you want to say it's meat, amay eno noheg b'kol hazevachim. It exists in everything. So now, what do you mean? What did we say? Okay, Tuma. We're going to go to Orla. We're going to go to Tuma. We're going to go to Zman. I'll tell you why we're going to go to Tuma. Because it only exists in Korban Pesach. What only exists? So here you told me it's talking about meat. That only exists in Korban Pesach? Not at all. If I do a Korban Toda, and I'm eating one piece of the animal, and you're eating the other piece of the animal, if it becomes tummy for you, it doesn't become tummy for me. So it exists in all the animals. So you can't tell me that that's what the ratio was if the Sefer doesn't fall in line. So the Gemara says, Ella, it must be Pshita betumat gavre. Must be talking about the Sefer is talking about people. Umay enu noeg b'kol hazevachim, didu b'kol hazevachim, arel v'tamim masherachin kol menaten. When it comes to an arel and a tamim, all the other korbanot you can send them, but a Pesach you can't. Didu b'Pesach arel v'tamim and masherachin pischem. But other korbanot you can't. Reisha b'tuma basar v'sefer b'tumat gavri. One second. The first Mishnah, the top of the Mishnah is talking about meat, and the second is talking about people. And I'll explain. So the Sefer, when I wanted to prove to you that I want to learn from Tuma, well, there is a similarity in Tuma and Orla. Tuma and Orla are very similar in all the halachot. All the korbanot, a Tuma and Orla can send their korban. The guy had a miracle. He needs to bring a korban toda. He can't go in the Beit Mikdash. So he can send it with the shaliach. No problem, he did his mitzvah. No problem. But when it comes to Pesach, he can't. So they're similar. So you see that's all, the similarity is in the people. So if you want to tell me, I'll learn from Tuma because it's people, how can you tell me in the top, I'm learning from Tuma because it's meat? So that means you're talking the first thing that we thought to make it similar is meat, but then the reason why we're going to learn it is people? And the Gemara says, yes. And the Gemara is saying, like you're saying, what is the answer? Amar li'in, Shem Tuma Kaparich. No, we were talking about the concept of Tuma. The concept of Tuma, the name of
Which
Tuma
includes everything.
Includes everything.
People
so,
and
very nice. That's exactly. So in Tuma we see something interesting, that there's a 50-50 in the concept of Tuma, that half the animal can be eaten, half the animal can't be eaten. And there's also a similarity in the fact that when they're Tami and Orla, they can bring a Korban regular and not can bring a Korban Pesach. That's what the Gemara says. First way of going. Ibait Ema, another answer. We have just a little bit more before we get over some. Ibait Ema, Seifa Nami Bituban Basar. No, I can tell you even the reason why we learn from Tuma is also Basar. You know why? What is the similarity that it only exists tumat basar in the zevachim? That it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the other korban, only in pesachim. Because zevachim ben shenitmad. Listen well. Chalev ubasar kayam. Let's say you have an animal, and the animal, in order to be to be valid for you to eat it, what do you have to have over there? You need, for it to be kosher, you need that one of the two things should be still valid. So you have fats and you have meat. The meat you will eat, the fat are burned a bit on the mizbeach. So if you have cheref that became tameh, the fat became tameh, ubasar kayam, and the meat is still good, ben shenitma or basar, the cheref kayam, zorek et adam. Or let's say the meat is still good and the fat is not good, or the fat is not good and the meat is good. Either way, you can still do the expiation, you can still sprinkle the blood, and you still get a kapara from it. In a regular korban, there are two parts. There's part that God's going to eat and the part that Mizbeach can eat. It doesn't matter, so long as one of the two is still kosher, you did your mitzvah, you can sprinkle the blood, maybe you didn't eat your meat, or maybe the Mizbeach didn't get its fat, but the mitzvah was done and you don't have to bring another korban. That's regular korbanot. So, okay, but ve'ilu bepesach nitmach cherev ubasar kayam zorek. The main thing is the meat. You gotta eat korban pesach. So if the meat is good and the fat is not good, you sprinkle the blood. Et adam nitma basar. But if the meat became tameh, the cherev kayam, and the fat is still good, and I can still put the fat in the mizbeach, and I want the meat. Eno zorek et adam. I'm not allowed to throw the blood. So what do we just throw now? We just throw a similarity in the meats.
In that case, is the mitzvah still done?
Yes, the mitzvah is still good. So you see that in all the korbanot, one of the two is good. But in korban pesach, only it's different. Korban pesach, when it comes to tuma, the halakha is you only have the meat has to be kosher. And how is that answering our question that it's similar to the orla?
Because we said we could just learn it out from meat.
How would it not from meat? Because it's no, because the halachot are similar. The halachot are similar in learn from orla that exists in the korban pesach that he can't bring it, and learn from tuma v'tara of the meat that the meat also has a specific thing that the meat, if it's not kosher, it's not good, the korban's not good, and all the other korbanot doesn't exist. So therefore, that's what we learn. One more little thing, one little stretch. B'mayu kimta. Okay, we're just going to go a little bit back on that. B'tumat basar. Okay, you want to say it's meat? Ema seifa. So if we go to the top, we're going to go back again. What did we say? Learn orla from tuma. What is tuma to basar? Say the end. Danin, we're going to ask another question one more time. Danin davar shelo hutar miklalo, midavar shelo hutar miklalo. We're assuming, the other way of going is orla tuma, orla zman. What do you want to learn from? Well, we can learn orla bris from tuma because they have a similarity that they both exist in Pesach. Or learn from zman that the zman is never cancelled and the orla is never cancelled. Tuma is cancelled when it comes to a korban. So maybe I want to learn with zman. And what they say, that's called dvar shelotra, midvar shelotra. We never cancel zman, we never cancel the orla.
What does that mean?
That means that there's no such thing as shechting now a korban, thinking I'm going to eat it tomorrow, that there's an exception that it's kosher.
Okay.
Guy's never going to shech the korban saying, I'm going to eat it next week and it's kosher. It doesn't exist. And there's no exception for a guy shechting a korban being an orla to bring it for a korban pesach. You can't bring it if you're an orla. So these are similar. But if a guy's tameh, he could bring a korban pesach. So you see that there's an exception to the rule. So maybe it's more similar that there's no exception.
We said you can't.
Yes, but there is one exception that if there's everybody tameh, you can. So since there's one loophole here, so don't learn from here. Here there's no loophole, so it's more similar to Zman. And don't learn from Tuma, because Tuma has an exception. B'mai. Okay, what are you talking about? Well, the Seifa, we're asking again a question on the Seifa. Tumat basar, there's no hetev to eat tameh basar. If an individual guy comes and shechs his korban and he's tameh, sorry, not him tameh, we're talking about the meat. Because we're talking about the meat. The meat is tameh, so there's never any heter that he can eat his tameh meat. The only heter is on the person. What is the heter of the person? That eicha miklala b'tzibur, like he's saying Natan, in the community. Well, so the person, so if the seif is the person, how do you say the reish is meat? B'tzivu. So the Gemara answers, Reisha b'tumat basar, Seifa b'tumat gavra. Yes, the Reisha is meat, and the Seifa is people. And what you ask a problem, in Shem Tuma Kaparich, like Rabbi David said before, it's the concept of purity and non-purity. In the meat, there's a concept of pure and not pure, that half is good and half is not good. So when it comes also to when we're learning the Sefer, learn from purity and not purity. The pshat is that the people can bring a korban pesach if they're tameh, and that's why it's saying that the people and they cannot bring if they have orla. So learn from Zman, don't learn with that. V'bayteim, last answer, kulat betumat basar. Actually, it's even the Seifa is the meat, and there is a heter of meat as well. Why? Ve'echeutra betumat pesach. Detan pesach ba betuma nechan betuma. Shelo ba mitchilato ela lachila. There is actually a heter to eat a korban in tumat tameh. The korban pesach, when it's brought in the community in tuma, you're allowed to bring it and you're allowed to eat it, because the only reason why you're bringing it is to eat it. I'll explain that one more time.
If the meat is tameh?
Yes, if it's brought betuma. In general, what did we just say? Learn Orla from Zman, because there's no exception of Orla and there's no exception of Zman. Don't learn from Tuma, no problem. But what Tuma are you talking about? It's only Tuma people, because there's no exception of there is an exception of people, but there's no exception of meat. A meat can never. So it must be talking about people over here. No, that's for a regular korban. You're bringing a chatat. You're tamei, you can't eat. Shlami, you can't eat. A tod, you can't eat. But korban pesach, guess what? You could eat in pure meat. When? How can you eat in pure meat? Not if you're an individual. If the whole community is tameh, you could shecht it when you're tameh. And since you can shecht it when you're tameh, you can eat it because you're tameh. Because the whole reason we're allowed to shecht it is to eat it. So we actually did found that there is an exception of eating the meat.
So the fact that everybody's tameh makes the meat tameh?
No,
the meat is definitely tameh, and you're allowed to eat it tameh.
So the meat, they're bringing a tameh meat.
And you're allowed to eat it, and that's the chiddush. So now if we just go like that, the gavra is tameh, yes. But the meat is also tameh. It becomes tameh. Very nice. So now we can have it in sync. So if we'll explain.
The sheep is not tameh.
No, you're right. But it becomes tameh.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
But at the end of the day, we do
tameh
see a heter. We do see an exception. Let me explain it one more time.
It became tameh by the people.
Exactly right. Exactly.
They
The
made
people
it
made it tameh. So how does it work? I have orla. I want to know what to do. Well, you can learn from tuma or you can learn from zman. What does it mean learning from tuma? It's definitely the meat. Because meat is 50-50 kosher, 50 it's kosher. If his piece of meat is kosher and his is not kosher, yours is still good, you still get your mitzvah. And okay, what do we say at the end? Well, no, don't learn from Tuma. So that's in Svara, what is the comparison? But the reason why to go like Tuma, not to go like Tuma, we go like Zman. You know, like Zman in the Seifa, in the second Svara, we go like Zman. Why we want to go with Zman? Because Zman has no exception, and Orla has no exception. Tuma has exception. What Tuma? Is it talking about meat and meat? Yes. There's an exception of meat also. What's the exception? When all of Am Yisrael is tameh. And they're allowed to bring Korban Pesach. They just made the Korban Pesach tameh. If you're tameh and you're touching Korban Pesach, you made it tameh. If you made it tameh, what did you just do? And now, are you allowed to eat it? You're allowed to eat it. Even though you're never allowed to eat a tameh Korban, you're allowed to eat the tameh Korban because the whole reason why you're allowed to bring it is to eat it. The whole Korban Pesach is to eat it. So therefore we found an exception. So since there's an exception in eating a tameh meat, and there's no exception of Zman, I'm checking now. Okay? We're checking for 50 people 10 people that have circumcision and 10 that don't. What do I do? Is it kosher or not? Well, let's see. You should learn from Zman. Because there's never an exception for Arel to have a Korban Pesach. And there's never an exception to do Korban Pesach to eat it tomorrow. And there is an exception of eating meat in state of Tuma, when the whole community was Tameh, and then you have to eat them in meat in the state of Tuma. So therefore that is the way to understand the Braita in the Havamina. Chazak Bo.